What's up, baby?
Turkey killing mofos. Hey, you a professional now.
You got her? Heck yeah, man. That's awesome, dude. Hell yeah.
Storytelling in regards to hunting and fishing has gone back hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Literally on the rock walls of our nation.
Push it. Yes, sir.
What are you doing, Brandon?
Go. By the way, your nipples are already wet.
I just shot probably one of the most epic scenes, probably ever. These two monster bugs got after it, and it was so cool.
That's about like what you want it to look like. Cover it.
Oh, he's so handsome.
That's a big deer, Megs.
He's big. He's a big boy. That's talking whitetail.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Holy crap.
Look at those hooves.
Everybody wants to be a turkey hunter until it's time to do turkey hunters.
What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 62 of the Tejas Hunt Club Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon McDowell, and for this intro, I'm sitting in with
Meagan McDowell.
And we want to do this little intro real quick for this podcast that Meagan does with Miss Kriss-Abigail on preparing your wild game in the field and then also getting it done, processing if you don't want to do it at home. And I suggest you tap into a good processor as a resource just because they can do a lot of different things that you may not be able to do, especially your first time around. And they know a little bit more about handling meat and stuff than the average
And they'll tell
person.
you how to do it too. Part of the podcast, if you listen, is about calling. The very first thing you do before you even go on your hunt is calling a processor that you want to work with and figuring out how they like that, how they quarter the animal, or if they want it to be a whole carcass. There was a whole bunch of really good value in that podcast episode for sure.
Cool. So you're going to hear all about that in this episode. But first, we have some other episodes drop, of course, with Mr. Brandon Bredemeyer, a longtime friend of Tejas Hunt Club and of the podcast, multiple-time guest. And then a new guest that's quickly becoming a friend that was recommended by Mr. Brandon Bredemeyer, Paul Anderson, talking about quail, turkeys, hunting old Mexico. That episode was really, really cool, and we look forward to having him on as a guest. And then hopefully, planning some trips or something south of the border.
I hope so.
Because as soon as he said that they have an abundance of turkeys, you know, my ears definitely perked up. So we're going to have to make a trip down there and hopefully bring y'all along as well. So make sure y'all check out those two episodes. Brandon's was about his trip to New Zealand, which was an awesome, awesome hunt. We posted a bunch of photos and stuff that he had. And it was a great podcast. Just learn about New Zealand if you haven't heard about it. Hunting red stag, fallow deer, rooster deer, sika, everything.
It's one of the
that you
most
can be
beautiful places too.
Yeah,
scenic wise,
they filmed Lord of the Rings there.
Yeah.
I've never seen those movies.
Neither have I.
But it's a real cool place in a different country to see, definitely. Yeah. So check out those two podcasts to hear more about that. A lot of big things, I guess you would say, have been going around Tejas Hunt Club. If you follow us on Instagram, which I hope you do, and if you don't, or Facebook, and you listen to the podcast, you should just definitely hop over there and give us a follow and a like. But we launched a new logo for Tejas Hunt Club. It's something that's been in the works for a little while. A lot of planning and thinking and really trying to pick out. It was a really
complete rebranding.
Yeah, really pick out what we wanted to do. And luckily we had a great designer that helped us out, Garrett Griffin, that helped us out along the process, and hopefully he's going to be helping us out with some other stuff in the future. So definitely give his page a follow on Instagram. We tagged it in the post with the new logo. Along with that, we launched a new YouTube channel. We separated it out, most of our hunting content and stuff, from our Bar MC Media YouTube channel. Yep. So go check out the new Tejas Hunt Club YouTube channel. There'll be a link in the description for you to check out. And if you type in Tejas Hunt Club, it'll pop up on YouTube. Really hoping to get some more some more content rolling out this season. But we're going to be posting right now some of our older videos that you may or may not have seen. Even if you have seen them, go check them out again, show them, share them with a friend, pick out your favorite one. But we're dropping quite a few videos weekly right now just to get all the stuff back up and rolling again.
If
so
y'all are looking for a way to support us, that's a great way right now.
Yeah.
Just subscribe to our YouTube channel and share our videos.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate it. Alarms and stuff going off.
Sorry. My bad.
But yeah, so definitely go check out the YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook. It'll help us out a lot moving forward with the Tejas Hunt Club brand and what we're trying to accomplish. But we're also real excited because we got us a deer lease for this season.
Yay!
Down in between Del Rio and Brackettville, so basically Mexico.
Del Rio is like our favorite. I love hunting in Del Rio area.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah.
Not my favorite. I shouldn't say my favorite. I took it back. But I do like hunting there.
Yeah,
it's not my favorite.
Well, what's your favorite?
I like fishing more than hunting. So I mean,
no,
it's just not my favorite place to go outdoors.
I guess if you say so.
Del Rio's fun though.
Yeah,
except it makes me sick. Yeah, it's dusty.
We came back with a little Mexican dust,
yeah.
And not the good kind. The kind that kind of makes you choke and cough and everything else. But yeah, really excited to get the chance to hunt down there, chase some whitetails, maybe some aoudad, maybe some axes. The coolest thing about the trip that we made down there was that the fact as soon as we stepped out, we heard quail.
Yeah,
which
Bob
is,
White.
Yeah, not something you hear all the time, but in that country it is more prevalent, and getting a chance to hear those birds, and then hopefully we'll try to get out and hunt some. We don't really have any quail dogs, but I mean, hey, we'll bust brush and try to flush up a few coveys, I guess you'd say. But
I'm sure the dogs will just naturally roaming around.
Yeah, it's possible. They won't know what they're doing.
No, they'll just probably pick them out.
Pick them up on accident. Yeah. But I'm willing to walk around and chase them and stuff. See if we can get some. A lot of dove down there, so that was cool too. We got a couple dove hunts lined up this season, but if some of those fall through, we need to pick up some extra meat.
Yeah.
We can head down there and go hunt too. But we're gonna be pretty busy this dove season, as always. It's like one of our favorite times of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, really excited to get the chance to hunt down there, chase some whitetails, maybe some aoudad, maybe some axes. The coolest thing about the trip that we made down there was that the fact as soon as we stepped out, we heard quail.
Yeah,
which
Bob
is,
White.
Yeah, not something you hear all the time, but in that country it is more prevalent, and getting a chance to hear those birds, and then hopefully we'll try to get out and hunt some. We don't really have any quail dogs, but I mean, hey, we'll bust brush and try to flush up a few coveys, I guess you'd say. But
I'm sure the dogs will just naturally roaming around.
Yeah, it's possible. They won't know what they're doing.
No, they'll just pick them out.
Pick them up on accident. Yeah. But I'm willing to walk around and chase them and stuff. See if we can get some. A lot of dove down there, so that was cool too. We got a couple dove hunts lined up this season, but if some of those fall through, we need to pick up some extra meat.
Yeah. We
can head down there and go hunt too. But we're gonna be pretty busy this dove season, as always. It's like one of our favorite times of the year.
Yeah.
We're gonna be hitting the Austin Stewards of the Wild chapter dove hunt again this year.
Opening weekend. Yep.
Opening weekend. And then we'll be at the Adult Learn Hunt Program clay shoot that same weekend on Saturday.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
And then we'll do the dove hunt on Sunday.
Yep.
And
no. Clay shoots. You got this way backwards.
I always get it backwards. It's
clay shoot. Listen. You already went out of order saying Austin Stewart of the Wild first. So the clay shoot is first.
Okay.
Adult Learn to Hunt Club.
Yeah, you want to talk about me?
You're an ass. Adult Learn to Hunt program clay shoot on the 30th.
Yeah.
And then we have the Stampede fundraiser with Adult Learn to Hunt program as well.
Yeah.
On the 5th, on that Friday of opening weekend. And then we go to the Austin Stewards of the Wild dove hunt.
Yeah, you almost messed it up again. Exactly. It's
Sunday.
It's a lot of stuff to keep track of, but luckily we have it in the calendar and we have alerts.
To Lubbock.
Yeah, Lubbock for the El Patron hunt with Brandon Bredemeier,
Tim
Willis, Curtis, and all them. Yeah.
It's fire.
We've been texting back and forth in the group message. Cricket Wing Outfitters, Will Riddle, and all those guys have already been like scouting. And there's a ton of birds in Lubbock right now.
I'm sure.
It's going to be awesome. We're going to try and break the record again this year. Last year we shot a little over 1,000 birds in the whole weekend. This year we're going to try and shoot for 2 or 3. Hopefully we can get a lot of those big pigeons and stuff in there too, so we can bump those numbers up. But it's always a good time hunting with those guys. Like I said, we'll make videos of all the stuff that we're doing, so we'll be dropping on the YouTube channel along with the older stuff. So we got some dove videos dropping now to get you hyped up for the season, and then we'll have
and some of our gear that we use is in those.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if you guys are looking for gear recommendations, check it out.
Listo, Gators. That's gonna be my biggest. I mean, for
and the Wrangler,
any hunting season, for anything, the best Gators, snake proof. Hit up Listo Provisions. You know, they work great for me. I took them to Idaho, walked around the snow, everything. Mm-hmm. So that'd be my number one.
And the Dove Wrangler.
Dove gear pick. Oh yeah, the Dove Wrangler from A Gauge Outdoors.
Is badass.
We need to pick up another one of those for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure
we used it on every single hunt last year.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Came in handy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we got a lot of stuff popping off. We got more podcasts dropping. I did one with Taylor Weems. So his season's going to be pretty epic. They're between him and his family, they have 6 elk tags that they're going to have this season between a couple different states. Oh. So we go over all of that. We also kind of get the secondhand story from Taylor about his cousin out at Arizona Custom Hunts. I don't know if you've been paying attention to Instagram, but Jimmy John, the owner of Jimmy John Sandwiches, killed a pretty big elk out in Arizona. Yeah. And Taylor's cousin Hunter was the one that helped guide him on that hunt. So looking forward to seeing him. Taylor said that he's going to actually have a booth out at SCI West Texas this year.
Oh, cool.
So we'll try to get him and Taylor on a podcast while we're out there.
Good.
Talk some hunting, hunting Arizona and everything else. So it'll be a good time. We got a lot of content flowing out right now, guys. So like we said, we greatly appreciate it. If y'all go watch it, give it a like, share it with a friend, post it on Facebook, post it on Instagram. You know,
you can repost on Instagram now.
You can repost on Instagram now. So help us out. If you enjoy the content, if you don't enjoy the content, politely tell us what you think we should do, because I'll listen.
If you've listened this far,
yeah. So
let us know.
Let us know. But we're going to get into this podcast with Meagan
and Kriss-Abigail.
Kriss-Abigail. Yeah. And we hope y'all enjoy it. Hope you learn something that you can take through hunting season this year to help your processing process be a little better. So thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. Greatly appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that cute YouTube and podcast stuff.
So cute. The cute YouTube stuff.
We'll catch y'all on the next episode. Peace.
Bye, y'all. What's up, guys? Welcome to another podcast episode. Today you have Meagan McDowell as your host. Brandon is not joining me today. We have an all-girls podcast. I have Miss Kriss-Abigail on the line with Meet Your Meat. She has been on the podcast before. We had her once before to talk about her experience with Adult Learn to Hunt, with her experience in her wild game butchering business and what she's been doing there. And I just keep seeing her name everywhere. When I get to see her in person, it's even better, which we get to see each other tomorrow. Ironically, that's kind of cool. But do a little bit of an introduction for those who may not know who you are, Kriss, and we will get into a couple things that are going to help you guys prep for your hunting season, whether you've harvested 100 deer, or you've never harvested a deer in your life, or whether, javelina or whatever it may be. Knowing how to take the process forward from that to kill, right? Like, what now? How should I skin this? How should I, quarter this? How do I take it? What do I order when I get to the processor? Like, she's going to really dive into that side of the process to get it from the ranch onto your plate for your family. So take it away, Kriss.
Oh, what a great intro. Okay, so for those that don't know me, my name is Kriss-Abigail, and I am a professional wild game butcher out of Comfort, Texas. And I'm going into my 9th deer season. So I've done quite a bit of processing, and now I sort of specialize in what I call bespoke butchery. which is a really tailored form of custom butchery. You think about like when you go and you get a suit tailored, something that fits you just right, that's made just for you. That's sort of the approach that I'm taking um, towards butchery. Uh, and so I'm really excited to talk to people about, that's like the most common question I get, like, what now? Whether it's their first hunt or it's their first time trying a new processor or it's their first hunt in Texas, there's a lot of, even if an experienced hunter may still struggle with what am I going to eat, or even like thinking outside of the box. So I'm hoping to impart a little bit of that knowledge and what fun things you could do with your wild game.
It's not all ground meat and
No.
smoked sausage. There's much more that you can get into.
Right. So I would say, a lot of times, let's all pretend that you're coming to me for the first time, and the first question I'm going to ask you is, how do you eat? And for me, I feel like maybe because I'm a foodie, I'm in culinary, like I can answer that question. It's like, this is how I eat. But a lot of people don't know, they don't know how to answer that question. So then it leads into, okay, do you eat a lot of brown? What's your family makeup? Do you like to slow cook things? Um, do you like steaks, things like that. And then from there, I'm able to gauge a little bit more about where they might be going or what they might be open to in terms of recipes or products or things like that. So I would say that if you don't know, even after this podcast, if you still don't know, because you're still, it can be so overwhelming to look at an animal, afterwards and be like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. I listened to this podcast, they told me what to do, I don't remember. Um, so I would say don't worry about not knowing. I would think that the first thing we want to do is we want to set ourselves up for success, right? So you're talking about you've harvested your animal, now what? And it actually starts even before that, right? So I would say you're mapping out your hunt plan, right? You know where you're gonna go, what ammo you're gonna bring, what gear you're gonna bring. That's around the time that you want to start calling processors either in the area that you're going to be hunting in, if it's more than a few hours drive from your home, um, or you want to find a processor in your area that you want to have somebody closer to home. So you really want to start doing your research just as you would on like what ammo you're going to use, what gear you're going to pack, what conditions you're going to be in, and start calling processors. And the questions you want to ask is, you want to ask how they prefer to receive the animal. That's going to be a big indicator of like what the process looks like. you know. Some may prefer to receive them quartered. Myself, I age them, so I prefer to have them just field dressed hide on. So those are the things those are the kind of conversations you want to start having with your processor even before. I'll have hunters that call me a couple months before they're coming to Texas and want to kind of get an idea, again, of how they should prepare the animal, how they should be bringing it to me, how we like to receive it, what our process is. So knowing that process is important, and it'll help inform how you then treat the animal, right? If you have a processor that says, hey, we work best in quarters, that's kind of what we have our setup for. Then if that's the processor you choose, then you know already, okay, I have to have this animal quartered. Again, if you're dealing with me, then I like to have them field dressed hide on because I age the animals with their hide on, right? And so these are the kind of conversations that you want to have with your processor even before you go out on your hunt.
That's
This
such a
helps
great point.
inform.
And I
Yeah.
honestly, admittedly, I've never done that. I've assumed quartered because that's what my dad, the very first time we went and harvested something, it's like, okay, you're quartering it up. We used to put it on ice. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But it's like, we never really thought to talk. Like, I don't even think we had the processor picked out sometimes. Like, we would just be like, okay, we're on the way home from the lease and
where's the closest one to, you know, whether I was living in College Station at the time or if we were going back to League City in the Houston area. That's a great point as far as like it starts even before you go on your hunt and to figure out and prepare to do the best job.
Yeah, because you know, a lot of the responsibility, honestly, for a processor will fall on the hunter. You know, we can't control what you do in the field and the aftercare of your animal. We can only control what we do when we get it. You know, we can only steward that animal so far. So it's really up to the hunter to set themselves up for success. If you want great tasting venison, then you want to prepare your harvest in a way that honors that quality, right? And so let's talk about quartering, right? That's probably the most common way that folks transport their animals out. And I would say if you're going to quarter an animal, the one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that it never touches ice. You want to keep your meat cold and dry. It really does. There's so many techniques. You know, it's going to depend on your cooler. It's going to depend on the availability of barriers, the type of ice you have, so many things. So I don't try to give one technique other than like just repeat this in your mind. Is my meat cold and dry? Make sure your meat isn't touching the water and make sure it's staying cold. All those things are going to inhibit the growth of bacteria, things like that. The other thing I advise to hunters who do quarter their animals is to cut away any really visible wound damage, right? So don't quarter your animal and throw bloodshot in there and throw, you know, shrapnel in there and just throw that. Try to cut away. I mean, you may not be able to cut most of it away, obviously, but you want to cut a little bit away as much as you can because that's a bacteria breeding ground that's going to infect the meat. So you really want to be mindful of those things. You want to be mindful of when you're skinning, to be careful that you're staying towards the hide and not towards the muscle. The reason being that, again, if a muscle gets cut with any depth, that invites bacteria. Time gets to the processor. If it does happen to, you know, hit water, then we have a lot more loss of meat. And so for the best yields, you want to keep it cold and dry and as clean as possible. That means clean of hair, clean of grass. You know, there's a lot of things that we can't prevent in the moment, but I think we can be mindful and thoughtful of that. You may encounter a processor that says that's too dirty for me. I'm going to charge you an extra $50. You know, you may encounter a processor that will reject it. You know, I know that like I have said no to some deer because it's just not taken care of, and there's no way that it's salvageable into anything. And then it becomes into a conversation of like, what could the hunter have done? You know?
Well, is that also opening up a risk of contaminating your equipment, right, in your facility at that point? So that's another aspect of it. You know, they have to make sure they're protecting everybody else's and their reputation as well. So that's a really good point. One of the things you said about keeping it cold and dry, I know that some people have gut shot animals, right? So we know the gut itself will not hurt, but you need to rinse off in that instance, right? Or am I wrong about that?
I would, okay, so what I would do is I would first honestly take cloth, okay, instead of taking a hose to it and try to clean it the best you can there. If it's still, I mean, if it's still so gut shot that you can't, then cut away the ribs. You know, cut away like as much as you can. The issue with introducing water from a hose sometimes is that if you don't give it enough time to then dry off, that water is getting transferred to your cooler. So you are introducing moisture, and moisture is probably the worst thing that you can do with your wild game. It invites bacteria. You have a lot more loss of meat from it, things like that. So gut shot is really tricky in that because of that. You know, sometimes what I suggest is like if you can package at least like let's say your rib cage is gut shot, right? If you can package the rib cage in its own bag, so you're containing that damage and it's not interfering with like your shoulders and your
Mm-hmm.
hindquarters and your back straps and things like that, then that's a good solution for that. Or, try to keep any of the damaged meat as separate as possible.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that kind of segues nicely into like the different. So a lot of people do know this that listen to our podcast if you hunt, but if you don't, when we're talking about quarters, right? So we're talking about the front and the rear, which is the shoulders, the legs, the big primary muscles that these animals, and you can tell us more about that because you're the master of understanding how those muscles work. But explain a little bit about what those four quarters are. And then even if would they even want the rib meat? Like you're saying,
Yeah.
package it separately, and it's like, okay, make a decision. Do I really want this rib meat or do I not? If I've never had it, like we never had it until I learned that that's a valuable cut. Most, generational hunters, their grandparents aren't teaching them to keep every single thing. It's good that they are. Some people do, but a lot of it's just, the quarters, the backstrap, and tenderloins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like for me, quarters is I think is a lot more involved, right? Because we're talking about saving the most out of your animal, getting the most amount of yield. And so for me, a quartered animal looks like a rib cage, okay? Or like a rib cage. Let's start there, a rib cage, a backstrap, tenderloins, two hindquarters, two shoulders, and the neck. The neck is something that often gets left behind, often gets like just discarded.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
And if your decision is, okay, well, I have a big family, we eat mostly ground meat, that neck meat is going to go to your ground. There's like yields there. There's food for your life, for your family there that you should consider not leaving behind. When it comes to the rib meat, the hope is, again, now we're going back to shot placement, right? Like, so now we're going back to like how the butchery and the yield of your animal is directly impacted by the shot you take. And the shot you take is directly impacted by the amount of work you put into knowing your rifle, the work that you know into putting the animal, the work that you put into knowing your correct shot placement, right? So like great butchery of any animal really is a collaboration between the hunter and the wild game butcher, right? You have done everything you can on your side to ensure a high yield quality success. I'm going to do everything on my side to then turn that into delicious food for you and your family. So it's really like a conversation, a collaboration. I think that a lot of people don't often think about. They kind of drop it off at the processor and sort of forget about it until they see their deer a month later. And then it all befalls on the processor for how the product is turned out, when really the accountability is shared because it's a collaborative relationship.
Yeah.
So, try to like save your rib meat. Be conscious of where you're shooting so that you can give an ethical and humane death to this animal that's going to serve your food. And be conscious of the fact that you want to honor that animal by saving as much meat on it as possible.
Right.
So even if you've gut shot your animal, the upper portion of your ribs is still going to be pretty viable. Right? Like, don't just throw away the whole rib cage, because even any pieces that you can get off of it, we can turn into stew meat, we can turn into ground, we can turn into food. And that to me is like that waste not, want not kind of mentality, right? Like, let's honor that animal. Let's honor the work that it took you to get to that point where you are harvesting your animal. And let's do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good point. So as far as you've got, your meats dry and cold, you've got it in bags or have a barrier, like you mentioned, which is either I've used like very heavy duty black trash bags. Are there any other barriers that you would recommend, or anything you don't recommend that, like maybe leaks or that hasn't been a very efficient barrier when it comes to keeping things dry in your cooler.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to use like a flimsy trash bag. I think those black unscented. Unscented is a big one.
Oh yeah, you don't want lemon
You
scented.
don't. I've gotten lemon scented deer. You don't want that. Like we can't pull that smell out of your deer. So like keep it unscented. If you have access to feed bags, they're great. They're a great barrier between the ice and your meat. I oftentimes don't even take the ice out of the bags. I will just keep it in the bags as another assurance that like there's a barrier there between the meat and and water. And granted, a lot of times, like you said, if you're hunting at a lease or you're hunting anywhere, you're looking for a processor that's close by, so you're not really going very far. But on the occasion that like you are driving a long way or for some reason you can't get to a processor until Monday and it's in the, and it's gonna sit in your cooler, it's gonna be temperature controlled, but like you still have to keep it cold and dry. So there's a lot of different things about that. I prefer to get my animals just field dressed and whole hide on. That's my preferred method because let's talk about this. Once an animal is quartered, you're cutting the shelf life of the meat because there's no protection of the muscles. There's so much exposure to air. There's so much ability for bacteria to penetrate, for water to penetrate, for all these things to start affecting the quality of the meat. So if I get an animal quartered, yes, on the grand scale of like what we call processing prices, it might be a little bit less expensive, but it has a lot less of a shelf life. So again, if you're quartering your animal, you're going to want to get it to that processor as soon as possible. Um, and then you're risking like how long does the processor take and what is that processor's process? And again, if they prefer receiving quarters, that's what you want to follow. I like to age the animals, right? It doesn't really matter. Um, like once you bring it to me, we hang it home in our walk-in for like 5 to 7 days before I even really look at it before we skin it.
So they would have to be pretty dang close to you to have a whole carcass transported, right? I mean, that's not a small cooler feet right there. That's going to be like, how have you had people bring, I mean, if they're close enough to you in the way that you like it, would it be that it never goes on ice and it's just like not blazing hot outside? Or how does that work to have a whole carcass?
Yeah, a lot of times it will depend on like proximity, right? And like temperature of the day, things like that. However, there are ways that you can buy time in that. Like, so for instance, I've gone on hunts about like two hours away. But again, it's like during hunting season, so it's cold outside, but I'll like blast the AC in my car, really. But I will also stuff ice bags inside the carcass so that I'm just like buying time until I can get it to a walk-in cooler. You do have a bit of grace in that area. You do have a bit of grace. What you don't want to do is you don't want to put a whole carcass in the back of your truck when it's 85 degrees out, not put ice in it, and then drive it to a processor 3 hours away.
How many have you seen those videos of people driving down the road?
Okay.
Oh my God.
That is an actual client I had. I had an actual client that's how they brought the deer, and I'm a soft heart in a hard world, and so I look at this animal and I want to be a steward of it and want to honor it, maybe not in the way that I had hoped the hunter would, but in the best way I knew how. But I'll tell you that was probably one of the roughest experiences that I've had. So I think, being mindful in any which way of ensuring that your harvest is cold and dry however best you can. and then talking to your processor even before you got on the hunt.
Yeah.
Doing your research, looking at their menu, just the same way that you're doing all this other research based on where you're going to hunt. Put that same effort into finding a processor in that area that you're looking for that like matches your need.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and like you said, it's okay to not know, right?
Right.
That's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people, they don't I guess they either it's pride or it's bad habits, or it literally is just the fact that they respected the front end so much, right? And then they just don't have, they just, from there, it's like lackadaisical for the rest of the process, which I guess it wouldn't be for everyone. Like for us, we're trying to fill our freezer, be in, like you said, the most volume that we can for what we've harvested, right? For a lot of people, it's just ignorance. It's not anything malicious. They just don't know any better. And then by the time they figure it out, it's too late, right? It's something that is just really fragile. So that's some really great points for everybody. And then, like you said, the menu, right? So I want you to tell a little bit about, first of all, I had nothing but ground meat, backstrap tenderloins, and some smoked sausage for my entire life. I mean, the first time Brandon and I took our deer to the processor, we looked at the menu and they said tamales. I was like, they make venison tamales? Like, I've lost my mind. And since then, we've always been intrigued to be like, well, maybe we should try this processor because, they have the specialty or the like seasonal things or whatever it may be. So I think a lot of people, we mentioned at the beginning, it's not just all ground meat and smoked sausage. So tell us a little bit about and you've also been kind of an artiste in this, in your role, right? So like a little bit about what some of the basics are, like maybe understanding if I have one whitetail doe, what can you expect? Like how much you would get out of that, or like what the average might look like versus maybe your family you had 4, right? And so you're bringing 4 and you need to decide on what you want to order for that.
Sure. So I would say let's talk about like expectation of yield. I think that's sort of an important topic because I find that most hunters really just have no idea, when you harvest an animal, it's like the biggest thing you've ever seen, even if it was a young doe. And you're talking about like a whitetail, like a Texas whitetail, a whitetail doe, she's gonna weigh between like whole, complete, she's gonna weigh maybe about 80 pounds, right? So then when we get to her carcass weight, she's gonna be about between 35 and 40 pounds. And then when we get into like how much usable meat she's gonna have about 20 to 25 pounds. So now like you have a hunter who's like, oh, my deer weighs 80 pounds. Why am I only getting like this amount of meat back? You have to have realistic expectations of what is actually usable after you've removed head and hide and legs, and things like that in terms of like what is a carcass that you're working with. So I think having sort of realistic expectations, you want to take like whatever you expect that animal, you want to take like 3/4 of that off, and that's kind of where your yield will sort of land, right? But again, if you've gut shot that animal, all of a sudden that 25 pounds of potential yield now is looking like maybe 18 if you're lucky, So again, the responsibility for yield is shared between the knowledge of a good processor and the knowledge of a thoughtful hunter. And so that's the first big thing, right? And so then you want to kind of look at what it is that you truly enjoy eating. I love that you and Brandon are like choosing different processors because they have like sort of different products you want to try. And that's why I encourage people to look, right? To look for process. You might find something cool that you never thought of, or some type of sausage you really like when you go to HEB and you buy it. You're like, oh, I had no idea I could have that made with venison. It really is beneficial for a hunter to do their research in that and to really be mindful about like what is best for their family in terms of what they want to eat. Right. So again, you said like you have someone who brings one white-tailed doe is very different than someone who brings in four. I'll often have hunters who will bring me multiple deer or multiple animals, and we do something completely different with each one, and each animal has its own tailored sort of, like process,
And how
right?
fun is
So,
that? That's
yeah.
so enjoyable.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And
love
as
that.
it, I think that like it should be, right? Like a hunt is a very personal experience. I feel like if you're going to be taking it to a processor, you should also have like a continuation of that very personal journey, that very personal experience. So I had a hunter who had gotten a mouflon and an access, and an access eats very different than a mouflon, right? So like with the access, we kept it very simple because access meat
Oh,
is, you know, like gorgeous, right? It's like akin
mm-hmm.
to like elk. It's a top tier beefy meat. And so the way that you would honor that is by leaving it as pure as possible. I don't really encourage people to get a lot of access sausage made. It's like you can get some just to try
Yeah.
it. But really you just want to like be able to eat that meat pure because it's so beautiful. Now, then we go to like a mouflon ram, right? That's
Right.
a very,
This
that's
side of the spectrum. Yeah.
yeah, that's a very different profile, right? That's like a very different smell of the meat. That's a very different
Mm-hmm.
eating experience. And so for the mouflon, we made him a lot of stew meat. We made him a South African dried sausage called Drewers, that is stuffed in the lamb casing, right? So then there's like when you want your processor to sort of understand the animal that you're hunting as much as you understand the animal that you hunted.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and understands the best way to like uplift that flavor profile. Like my personal thing is I love uh doing like custom recipes for people. Or I have clients who bring me things and they're like butcher's choice. My crew hates that because I try to give them a bit of everything. But it's nice to have that opportunity to be thoughtful with someone's animal and be entrusted with with their animal in that way.
You think it was called Butcher's Twist? Is that what it was?
No,
What's it
butcher's
called?
choice.
Choice. I was
Butcher's.
like, that's interesting. Butcher's Twist.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah, either way.
Hmm.
So tell us about a couple of the ones that are like your favorite custom recipes that you whipped up. Because I've seen a
Okay,
lot of
so
impressive ones.
thank you. So the nice thing is that just for like a little background for folks is I work at a small town meat market, and then I run and have built their deer processing as well. So a lot of my recipes get made into beef and pork recipes that are available to the general public. And those same recipes then are translated into wild game, which is really fun to be able to play with that and to be able to like showcase just animals in different ways in that way. And then in that, they both sort of inform each other. So last year, I had someone come up to me and ask if I could make them a cranberry pecan summer sausage. And I was like, okay, they're like, have you ever made that? And I was like, no, but I can. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
so cool, right? That
Sounds
sounds
great.
fun.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it sounds great. And so we made them this cranberry and pecan summer sausage just for them. And we all loved it so much that now it's a product in our retail section. So now we're making it out of beef and pork for like our customers. So that part is very cool about being able to do that. The other thing that I do that I love is I make that like South African dried sausage called Drewers. It is traditionally made with game, and so it's game mixed in with beef fat, malt vinegar, toasted coriander, and then stuffed into lamb casing and hung to air dry.
Did you bring some of that to our last hunt in October? I can't remember. You brought some biltong.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
And that. And oh,
yes.
What's the difference between that and the biltong? Am I saying that wrong? Biltong?
No, biltong.
Okay.
So biltong is just like the jerky form. So biltong is made from the inside round of beef. It can also be made with wild game. So it's just like the dried meat version of Drewers, which is the sausage stick version.
Okay.
And I had first had that years ago in Pipe Creek. There was a South African meat market up there, which I didn't know it existed. And they had biltong and Drewers, and I had never even had those in my life. And I think I had one bite of Drewers, and I was just blown away by this like crazy meat treat. And so for many years, I just kind of held on to it. And when I went to work at Alamo, they have been really wonderful about letting me sort of run wild creatively. And so they were like, okay, well, let's make it, and it's turned into one of the most popular items and something that I always recommend to like hunters, especially like experienced hunters like yourself, like you and Brandy, who are looking at processors that have something unique that they can't really get anywhere. You can't get venison Drewers really anywhere. So it's not on many. The same thing with biltong. So I really
the only reason I know about biltong is because I was in South Africa when I had it for the first time.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I know about it. I definitely haven't seen it or ordered it anywhere.
Yeah, and it's like the new big thing.
Yep.
Now there's like biltong everywhere. That's okay.
I have noticed that. I was like, okay. And I wasn't sure if it was like the effect of, oh, now you've had it, so you're aware of it, so now you're seeing it everywhere. So I wasn't sure, but now you're confirming that it's like a recent infatuation.
It's definitely recent infatuation. It's really interesting. But things like Drewers. So I've been able to really kind of craft things that I think highlight animals, highlight wild game specifically. We want to kind of think outside the box. We want to create things that are delicious and unique, even if it's, a breakfast sausage. It's like, hey, why don't we make, like a maple blueberry breakfast sausage?
Yum.
Or, it's like, okay, we'll talk about like wild hog, right? How people don't say they don't like wild hog, and it's like, okay, well, you haven't had our wild hog green onion sausage, right? That we cold smoke and that like deserves a spot in your grill. So I love game animals that are unloved. So I think like when I make recipes for wild game, I'm always thinking about how to best showcase and honor them. Where it comes from. Am I recommending if you're just gonna have ground, right? Like what kind of fat am I gonna recommend depending on how you want to eat? Beef fat renders out faster than brisket fat. Pork fat is more traditionally used for sauce. So like these are the kind of conversations that you want to have with your processor. These are the kind of things that I think that you just kind of want to know about yourself. You want to know about like how you eat. It just speaks to like how disconnected we are from our food if you don't know how to like say what it is that you like to eat. It's like, oh, I don't know.
I wonder how many people have never even thought about the percentage of fat in their ground meat, right? Because I mean, you go to the store, it's very obvious they put like the percentages, but I mean, I've always just bought 85-15. That's just what I know that if like I'm trying to be more lean, like I understand that association, but I also have a degree in ag, so like I have that background of education. Right. It's so surprising. They're probably just like, oh yeah, because I didn't even ask my processor what kind of fat they're using. Like they don't know. They have no idea.
They don't know.
And then I mean, some processors will take your wild hogs, whereas others won't. And so like there's certain things where like especially if you're wanting sausage and you just assume I have two wild hogs. My goodness, Jersey accent. 2 wild hogs and a couple deer, they'll just assume you can bring both and, you know, combine that for the sausage. It's like, that's not always the case. It depends on seasonality for some producers, or some processors. And so it's just like, there's all kinds of things you have to think about and mix, especially with those sausages too, because it's not just a clean cut.
Right, right. And you know, and so that's where we go into like, let's have a conversation with your processor. Because it's also too, I think you want someone that you want to get along with, right? Like just like you want a guide that's there for you and is wanting to like give you the best experience, you want a processor you vibe with. You know, and I think you can tell that pretty much from a conversation. There's a lot of great processors out there, and I think processors, for the most part, would appreciate an informed hunter who at least has good questions to ask, you know, because a lot of times, here's the thing, it's like if you're just gonna let your processor do whatever they want, then you have to be willing to accept what you get,
You
right?
pick up 6 bags, you take them home, and then you're like, okay, I guess we're gonna have, you know, like there's no real. It's like you've got a random bag of meat from the store. Like you really don't even have you don't have anything in mind for how you're gonna use this at all.
Yeah, I always want people to like walk away so excited about coming back in a few weeks and picking it up. You know, I will always tell them that we are single batch processors, or it's bespoke, it's tailored to them, and that quality takes time, but that like we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that this is the best eating experience that you have. That like when you go to the table, even if it's just ground meat, even if like you're like, no, Kriss-Abigail, you're crazy. I don't want to do drawers. I don't want to do biltong. I don't want to do your, you know, like your crazy salsa macho sausage. I don't want to do any craziness. I just want some good old ground meat. It's like, even if that's all you want, I want you to walk away feeling like when you come back that we are giving you the best of us in that product. And I don't think that's like too much for processors to do or for hunters to expect from where they're dropping off the meat. Because at the end of the day, it's like you are entrusting someone else to take your harvest and turn it into food. And so you should be completely comfortable and feel good about who you chose instead of just dropping it off anywhere and being okay with like mediocre stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I have tried some stuff that's, you know, it's like, oh dear.
Woo! Yeah.
Ooh. So, you know, I think I take great pride in that. You know, I always tell like folks that come in, we're all hunters.
Yeah.
You know, it's a crew of a bunch of hunters who understand not only the importance of getting your harvest back, which is why we do single processing, even though it may take a little longer, right? And you
touch
have
on that
folks who
just a
like,
little bit, because I know we talked about it on our last episode for a split second, but just so those who don't know what that means versus the alternative.
Sure. So when you call your processor, what you want to find out is you kind of want to feel around to see if they do like batch processing versus individual processing. So what batch processing looks like is it looks like you getting the entirety of your red meat. So like let's say you want some roast, you want your backstrap, you want your tenders. You can, you know, I think pretty confidently say that that is what you get back. But then what happens is that your trim, right? So the rest of your yield of your meat gets batched together with the trim of other deer, and then mass production is done, and then everything gets sort of divvied up between everyone. So you are not necessarily getting your meat back. And I think what happens with that, it's like if that's how you want to do it, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, and I understand why batch processing exists. You know, processors have we only have like 4 months
Mm-hmm.
to make a year's profit, to be, and a lot of it is like seasonal labor and things like that. So teach, even if you want to teach like bespoke butchery, you're getting a new crew every year because you're only open for these years so that you can make it through the year. And so batch processing is the most efficient, profitable way for a lot of processors to work in high volume. So, and that is going to be, and I will tell you that that experience is probably going to be more economical. It'll be less expensive,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
truthfully,
I've done
because
both.
because they are doing in volume, right? So they are focused on quantity so that they are able to offer more economical choices. And then you have individual processors. And I think that's kind of where I fall into. So individual processors are only processing your animal. They're processing your animal one at a time. And that means that your animal gets like butchered by itself. And then all that trim that belongs to your animal is held with your name, is documented, and all that is then turned into the product that you have. So it's closer to more of a true yield of what you can get. And then you are assured that it is the animal that you harvested and that you
Yeah.
took care of, right? And so that's the other thing about batch processing, is that you are taking the chance that you may get a quote unquote gamier animal because it hasn't been
Because those
stewarded the way.
hunters may not have done the same due diligence
Right,
that you did.
right,
Which
right.
again, we've done both. And so and you may end up taking home more with the batch. It just happens that
Absolutely.
way because you said they divvied up between, there's no way for them to know exactly where it came from and all that. So I mean, again, not bad or good one way or the other.
Right,
It's literally
right,
just a decision that you can make for yourself, and
right,
there's pros and cons to both.
right, exactly. I obviously I prefer individual, but a lot of that is because I love creating recipes for people. I love knowing that we've done our very best. I love that kind of touch, I I worked in kitchens, so like being a chef was an aspirational dream really for a long time. And I found out that like wild game butchery, with this sort of connection to people and being able to uh, make them great food and play with flavors and play with techniques and play with what ifs, kind of like scratches all those itches for me. So I love it. I think it's so fun. I think it's really a great way to honor your hunt, to like make great food with it, especially as we talk about what is sustainable eating, right? Especially as we talk about like regenerative agriculture. You and I have had this conversation a
Mm-hmm.
lot about how hunting belongs at the same table as conservation and sustainable eating. So why not have fun with your food? If you're
Yeah.
gonna do the whole work, why not have something unique and memorable made out of your harvest?
Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's like pre-COVID and post-COVID, and I feel like there was people who were interested in
Yeah.
where their food come from before, but now they like demand to know. So there's been more interest in hunting, which we've seen. Obviously, the
Right.
numbers for the applications for the Adult Learn to Hunt program are out of this world. And it's nice to know that more people are actually acting on that and like wanting to
Mhm.
know and be informed. And like you said, it's really just a matter of spending some time, investing the time in that you do for your ammo and your rifles and your arrows or your bows or whatever it is that you're using. It's such a good point, and more people are doing it because there's just this
Yeah.
mentality of, where did that come from, or what, is that ethical, or that kind of thing. I have a soft part of my heart in
Mhm.
agricultural production. So like there's a lot of things that I respect on that side as well. Like
Absolutely.
a lot of these producers are family farms. So they just don't know it. So in general, there's an opportunity on both ends to really, like you said, there's some translations from the beef and the pork that you guys are processing or whatever it is from like the traditional, marketable
Right.
meats versus the game food, and like kind of how it's almost like you should care as much that you're looking at a recipe for, what you can get from the grocery store as the same thing as what you're getting for your game, if you're going to invest that much into the front end of it. So that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you think that, as far as, getting to the process? I think for me, I didn't even know, there's some fun things here and there, but when I'm ordering ground meat, because we do have a need for just, like you said, ground meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm ordering that ground meat and you choose your percentage of fat, is there kind of a best practice there, or is it just preference? You're going to get more yield if you have more fat. I guess in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. But then again, you have fatty meat. So specifically for ground meat, if somebody's just starting out, I really just need to get ground meat, which we are this year, we're at a point where we need to order a lot of ground meat for our yield. What are your recommendations for ordering that specifically?
Sure. So I would kind of love to talk about things that you can get in terms of red meat and ground. So ground meat, the percentage, right? You have the ratios, right? So 80-20, like you said, 85-15, 70-30, 90-10. Those are the higher number is the lean. So it's what's called the lean, right? That's your red meat. And then the lower number, let's say, 75-25, right? This lower number is the amount of fat that gets added. So the higher that lower number is, the more fat is added to your game. And so then it becomes a choice of preference. So a lot of times I ask folks, what is it that you get at the grocery store? So do you get leaner things at the grocery store? Do you get a fattier one? Then if they don't know, then the next question is, okay, do you make a lot of burgers? Or do you make a lot of pastas? Because if you're making a lot of pastas, a lot of chilies, a lot of stews, things like that, you can really truly get away with what we call a leaner meat, right? So 90% venison, 10% fat. And again, the fat is a preference. You'll have typically the 4 options at a processor are pork, bacon, beef fat, suet, essentially, and brisket. Okay, so those are your kind of four basic fats that you can choose from. Again, it depends. It also depends on a processor's minimums, things like that. These are conversations that you want to have. Because for folks, I have made 50% of ground with bacon, 50% with beef fat. Just because they want to be able to have sort of those options. Or I want to make, or I want to make chili meat with this, or I want to do that. If you're making a lot of burgers, meatloafs, things like that require moisture kept, then I'm gonna say, let's go at 80-20.
Yeah.
That'll keep that moisture really nice, and it'll stay nice and fatty. And you'll still get a lot of that wild game taste. The one thing that we do at work that I really love is that, again, because we are a meat market, we have access to ribeye trim. When
I go buy that from the store.
Yeah,
I bought that before to put it in ours. Yeah,
it's so good. I mean, talk about a game changer in terms of, and so for us, that's our basic fat.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I rendered a bunch of it down. We had a rib roll that we got for Christmas, and I trimmed it down and I rendered all of it, and so we still have the tallow that we're cooking with. It's the best. It's so good.
It's so good. So then you add that to so that's our beef fat. Our beef fat is our ribeye
fat.
Ends.
Nice.
Yeah, just that ribeye fat. That's really nice and creamy and really delicious, and then yields a better product. And so those are the things that we're always thinking about. Okay, yes, it's ground meat. So for instance, if I'm adding brisket to something, we're taking whole briskets and trimming that and adding that. We're not taking, ground brisket from a meat supplier. We're getting whole briskets in, and that's what we're chunking in. And so that's, you talk about like processing, those are the kind of things that you want to think about. And then when you make that decision, understand that if you're going to a processor that uses ribeye steak ends and whole briskets, the price is going to
It's
be
going to
very,
reflect
very
that.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the price, exactly. The price will reflect that. But so will the eating experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So will the eating experience because you do have something that is completely tailored to you, that is produced with like high quality ingredients. Like you really will see that and eat that. And that's awesome. That's like
Mm-hmm.
the goal, right? The goal is my goal is to set you up for success. So when people sit at your table what you cook, they're like, holy moly, I've never had a game like this
Yeah, I
before.
mean, it's like if you want to equate it to going to the store, right? So it's like you are buying, like you're looking down at this like highly marbled ribeye cut, like, and you're so excited to put it in your basket and take it home, and like it's the same goal really is that for you
Yeah.
to pick up your meat and feel the same way, and like exactly, like you're just already thinking about enjoying it. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole excitement.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like the whole thing is like I want just the way that taxidermy is a way of honoring your hunt and honoring your animal, so is your meat. So think about that. Just think about like the way that you want to honor it. Because it is, and I will say this, that it is in a hunter's complete control what the end product of their processing looks like.
Yep.
Because you are the one that is making the choice about who you're going to go to, what fits into your budget. You are an informed consumer, hopefully after this podcast, right? And you're going to make decisions based on that. So it is entirely your responsibility what the end result of your processing experience looks like. So be mindful of that. That it's not the processor. The processor, they're in business, they're doing their business, they're doing just fine. That is what works for them, works for them, works for them, right? And so you have to find somebody that you will be happy with, that you are willing to be like, okay, this is who I want to give my meat to. And it sounds, I think it sounds like really, not like woo-woo, but but a little bit like out there, because you can just like drop off to a processor. You can definitely get some good ground. You can definitely get some good meat. You like absolutely no like hate on that method at all. But there are other ways. And again, as we're entering this, I think, new chapter in our food history where we are wanting to know where our food comes from, to the point of I want to know the lineage of this cow I'm eating, right? So, like, think about your processor is really your personal butcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool. That's how I envision myself. I am your personal butcher. I am here to like make your meat dreams come true. And that's how we run, deer processing. That's how I lead my team, all of that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and like you said, there's levels to this shit, right? It's with everything.
yeah.
It's like you're like
Yeah.
the sommelier, but for meat. So it's like it's just people like, I like my $5 HEB wine, but I also like to, you know what I mean? So it just kind of, it's a preference thing. It's
Yeah.
definitely not, and it's again, economically, some years I'm able to indulge in that, and some years we just
Yeah.
take it in, and it is what it is. I mean, yeah. There's levels, definitely, and I think that it depends on every single person's unique situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's no wrong way, right? There's like no wrong choice. There's no wrong thing to do. There's just the knowledge you have.
Mm-hmm.
And what you choose to do with it, that's up to you, right?
I mean, you're
Like
the one eating it at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You're the one. That is the perfect way to say it. You're the one eating it at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? Like, so you are in complete control of that, and use the knowledge that you have as you will, just like with anything, like you have a preference in rifle, you have a preference in ammo, you may even have a preference in what animal you harvest. you
Mhm.
know, or like what animal you really enjoy eating, things like that. And so I think the more informed we are, the more knowledge we have in every aspect of like our outdoors, hunting, conservation stewardship community, the better we will be for it,
Yeah,
you know?
1,000%. That's why we know each other,
Yeah.
because we're part of the program. That's the
Yeah,
core of
yeah,
what we believe
exactly.
in, for sure.
Yeah,
Well, okay,
absolutely,
tell me a
absolutely.
little about, in our last few minutes, about this event that you have coming up, because I think that's really cool. If I wasn't already busy, I'd be coming. Just
I know.
tell us about it.
Okay, so I have, you know, we talk about like hunters a lot, right? Like about the care that we give our hunters. We want to make their meat dreams come true. And I just got to thinking about our ranch managers, guides. You know, you and I both know them. They're hardworking people. They're there to like make the experience the best for the hunter, do all these things. They upkeep the wildlife. They, you know, they do the herd management. They do a lot of behind the scene work. And one of my missions is to highlight that invisible type of labor. And so I created this event that we're having in a couple of weeks called Wild Game and Wine. And in Wild Game and Wine, I have invited local ranch managers uh, and guides to come to Alamo for like an evening of hanging out. You know, we'll have a nice big grazing board so they can try, you know, all of our products that we make. We'll invite them in to just kind of hang out. We'll have beer and wine. I think we're gonna have some cornhole games happening. We'll do a door prize, we'll do swag bags, and then we're gonna do plated wild game appetizers. Uh, just as a way of like bringing all of us together. You know, it's this community of people who work behind the scenes in hunting in Texas. Um, and we're about to like go into a really busy part of
Yeah,
our lives where our families don't see us, and you know, we thank goodness we can shower once in a while kind of work. So I wanted to have something nice to bring everybody in the community together, um, and
that's
just
great.
have a
It's like
good
kicking off the
time.
season, too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, Wild Game and Wine, come on in, come eat some good food, you know, get some cool swag, win a door prize. It's top secret, but it's a good one. Um,
And y'all are
and
in
you know,
Comfort, right?
yeah, so we're in Comfort. We're right on Front Street. We're in an optimal place in the hill country. If you're hunting in the hill country, we're a short drive within everywhere. We're by Kerrville, Ingram, Harper, you know, so that area. Um, and so we're right there, you know, and we're right in the middle of it. There's a lot of hunting that happens in our area, and we really want to provide the community with a quality experience, right? And we want to be thankful to, you know, we're inviting guys that have worked with us that bring us things. You know, we want to appreciate that they see what we're building and that they also understand that they want to be a part of that. They want to send their clients our way. You know, we
Yeah,
want to
that's a great
celebrate them.
point. I was about to mention that. If you
Yeah.
guys also talk to your ranch manager, your outfitters, whoever you're booking your hunt with, if you're booking with someone, likely they'll know, you know, A,
Hmm.
how to help you in the field to prepare it for whoever you're
Right.
taking it to, if you're open to taking their advice on where to take it. It could be even more helpful and make it even a smoother process for you.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like I have a few guides that were their exclusive processor, and they do the work of just dropping off the deer with their clients' tags, and then I'm on the phone with their clients. You know, a lot of times sometimes they're out of state hunters. So out of state hunters, you know, you're even if you're coming to Texas, that's a lot of the phone calls I'll get are from out of state hunters that are already prepping their hunt to Texas and are just wanting to prepare, right? And they're so
Yeah, it probably makes
excited.
you so
They're
happy.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes me so happy. I'm so excited for you. It's like even just like hearing the excitement of their
Yeah.
voice. I think like for me, that high of like that adrenaline rush of being excited for someone else is part of why I love wild game butchery because you have this like when they drop off their animals or they're calling, they're talking about like these great adventures. You're like, oh, tell me
Mm-hmm.
more. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I want to hear about it. I want to be a part of it. I want that same happiness to be every time you eat a burger from this animal, every time you eat a steak from it.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to be happy with that.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
gosh. I love that.
yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you coming on tonight. I know that, like you said,
Got it.
all of us are about to be head down in the hunting
Yes.
season. I don't know if you're
Right.
coming to any of the dove hunts in the Central Texas area or if you're going to any of
Mhm.
the Stewart's has a couple of them, and TWA has a clay shoot that we're going to go to. I'm not sure if you're going to go out to that one or not, but
I'm not quite sure yet. But I'm
there's
going
a
to go
ton.
to the Stampede. I
Yeah,
know.
so I'll see you there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yay.
Yeah, if y'all are in the hill country, TWA, Texas Wildlife Association, and Stewards of the Wild are very, very active in the hill country, in the Austin area, San Antonio, south and north, east and west of this area. We have other chapters as well for both of those organizations, but the hill country itself, there's so many opportunities to connect with locals in the area. Obviously, she's a processor, wild game processor, but we have guides in the area. There's people who are actually like lobbyists at the Capitol, like for wildlife. Like there's a lot of interesting people in this area that are super active, and there's tons of opportunities for hunts, fundraisers, like we just mentioned, clay shoots, whatever. Dove hunting is a great introduction to the sport. So if there's a way for you to get introduced, that's probably going to be one of the best ways to do it. But thank you so much. I'm so sorry I'm going to miss your event. I think that's going to be a great, like, new recognition for them. Like you said, they're kind of the unspoken heroes of the in-between, right? Between the outfitter and the hunter, like there's still somebody between the two usually, as far as the ranch manager. So they really are true stewards, and I'm glad that they're getting a fun night together before we kick off the season.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it. I was very nervous about it because there's a lot of like folks I don't know, but just hearing their enthusiasm of like, wow, somebody's doing something for us, and there's like they don't want anything but just to have us come out and enjoy company.
Get out of their day-to-day hustle for a few hours and have people who are like-minded in that. That's great. That's awesome. Well, I will see you tomorrow, love. I'm so excited about that. Speaking of events, the women in wildlife, or wildlife women, I can't remember the name of it right now. Program.
Women of the Land.
Women of the Land. Yeah, that's a new one for TWA, so I'm excited to see. Yeah. It's a full day too. I saw the agenda. I was like, oh my goodness, they ain't messing around.
I know.
Okay.
No, I'm glad you'll be there.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments. Rate and review. Subscribe on YouTube if you're watching, and we will see you next time.